to prepare for the hunt far more thoroughly than he usually did. In his wallet was a folded letter from the landowner, rancher and developer Miles Waddell, granting him permission to hunt on this private, thoroughly posted property, a favor that might not be possible after the huge $300 million astronomy theme park being built by Waddell was complete and flooded with tourists. For several weeks, Torrez had kept track of this herd. He'd had to pause more than once out on the county road as they shot across in front of him, often to disappear behind the steep prairie swell to the east. This morning, he'd hiked over the swell, saw the herd, and slipped down to this little mound of cover and support for his rifle. There was nothing about this hunt to make Torrez's heart hammer with anticipation, no excitement of the chase. Rather, what he planned was a simple culling of the herd, a carefully managed stocking of the freezer. Torrez took one more visual tour of this herd, and then settled back on the youngster. The crosshairs rested on a spot between eye and ear, and Torrez's breathing slowed, and then stopped as his right index finger moved into the trigger guard. 10 seconds, 20, a full half-minute, and finally he allowed his finger to actually touch the trigger. A heartbeat later, the .264 Magnum bellowed, the recoil punching the hunter's shoulder hard. So instantly did the skull shot drop the antelope that by the time Torrez had recovered from the recoil and once more acquired a clear scope view, the animal was down, one leg kicking spasmodically. By then, the rifle's sharp report had reached the herd. Unsure at first, they milled about and then charged off, the old buck circling toward the left to pick up the straggling fawns. Even as Torrez's hand relaxed away from the trigger guard, his scope exploded, sending aluminum, glass, and plastic shards in all directions. A heavy piece was flung backward, clearing the bill of his cap and whacking him over the left eye. Another fragment stung the middle of his left forearm, still another raked his left shoulder. When the crack of the gunshot reached him, it seemed to float in from a dozen directions, rolling across the prairie, finally bumping up against a nearby mesa, to echo and re-echo. With an instinctive lunge, he spun away and scrambled backward to dive under a thick, runty spray of creosote bush, unmindful that the bush might include unwanted company. There wasn't enough bush to hide his 6-foot 4-inch body, even though he tried to curl his 240 pounds into a tight ball. He clawed out his handgun at the same time, a useless long-range prairie weapon, but one step better than his folding knife. For a moment he lay perfectly still, letting his breathing and pulse even out, waiting for a second shot or the thud of boots charging toward his location across the rough ground. His wristwatch told him that it was shortly after noon. Twisting slightly, he studied the watch until the exact time was engraved in his memory, 12:12 p.m. Torrez turned his head, scanning the prairie through the tangle of branches. The ocean swells of prairie prevented most straight-line shots, and the runty bush would blur the outline of his body, but the shooter had the advantage. Storm runoff had carved the arroyos and washes in a wild crisscross pattern. The terrain rose between him and the county road to the west, a long berm of shattered limestone that hid from view the gravel road and all the construction activity on Waddell's mesa. Farther to the south, the berm subsided, and Torrez could see the pale line that was the county road winding southward. He took a moment to dig his earplugs out and flick away the rivulet of blood that threatened to run into his left eye. 10 yards away, the rifle lay where he had dropped it, partially cushioned by his folded vest. The expensive scope was a shattered tangle, the rear portion jerked to the left, the forward half blasted free of its mount. That fragment lay on the ground 5 feet away, also to the left. Torrez edged around the